I am Chad Saborn, the director of Incisor. The reason why I have my laptop out is because when you have 4 months worth of footage, you kind of need to look at it just to kind of like jog the memory of what went on that day. So I'm going to get into that, but first I wanted to say Marv Black is the one that first started this project, and the reason why I say that is because when I first met him, he heard some of my ideas, and he's like, "Dude, you should make a movie." And I was like, I don't have a camera, and then also on top of that, I don't really have anyone consistent that I could film with, because in the back of my mind I was like, he might be interested, but at the same time I don't know how consistent he's going to be. So just kind of brushed it aside, and then I met Ryan Narrated back in October 30th, and I introduced him to Marv, and we all started discussing, and Ryan was initiative, because he is the final key, because when I realized that both of them were interested, I knew that there was something that could potentially happen. And also, when you have 3 people, there is potential to make a movie. And so we started filming. It was December 8th of 2019 we started filming. We used Marv's camera. Now, the camera was, I believe it was HD, but for some reason sometimes it would shoot in SD. And it was the only camera we had at the time. And I'm not gonna lie, all that footage we did not use. It was first and foremost the first day of shooting. It was just Brian, Marv, and myself. Now the premise, I came up with it just on a whim. I was like, how cool would it be if a bunch of filmmakers were interviewing people, going to the woods, and some of them have claimed they've seen a monster, some of them have claimed they haven't, and they're interviewing these people to find out if in fact there is one. I don't know, it was something that just kind of dawned on me, and then also I figured it'd be kind of cool to play with genres, especially in the final act where everyone dies. So it was just something that really dawned on me. But originally it started out as it was going to be a Wes Anderson movie meets Blair Witch Project meets Borat. But again, as you probably have seen in the movie, it wasn't really that. Because again, early on I started realizing that things just were not working out in terms of tonally. We were trying to be very comedic, it just wasn't working. Again, like I said, our first day of shooting, all that footage was not used. It wasn't. Some of it will probably appear in the bloopers, but it just did not appear. Excuse me. The other thing is that I got my friend Alex Simon involved. He's someone that we shot his scenes several times. That was with Marv's camera. We then used, I got a camera for Christmas. Shout out to my girlfriend Nicolette Peltekis. We used her camera, which was shooting in 4K and HD at times. And we shot Alex's scenes. He was the first person we were interviewing. And then we interviewed my friend Kevin Cowerman. Now, with Kevin Cowerman, reason why we shot his scenes next was because he was in college. So he wasn't going to be, available. So it was 1-day shoot, and we got it. That is the earliest footage, I'd say, that was in the movie. And then we used that as a focal point. And it worked, because it was around, I'd say, middle of December. That was when I realized we're going to try to focus on that first and foremost, like his scenes. I then shot scenes of me and Marv in the park, and the scenes with him and I in the park, just kind of like me showing him tracks and everything. I just kind of realized later on down the line it just wouldn't work, because how often is a producer on set? Probably not that often. So I figured it'd be kind of cool if he appeared later on, and that's where Ryan Orlando came in. See, Ryan Orlando came in and he helped me fine-tune the script, because I had these ideas and I had a story I wanted to tell, but he helped me with some of the plot twists and also just some of the key plot points. A lot of improv was also involved with the actors and actresses. Some worked, some didn't. That's where editing had to get clever. But when Ryan Orlando got involved, I'd say that's when things really changed, because again, before that it was just Marv, Ryan, Narcabbage, and then of course Marv, Ryan Narcabbage, myself, and then Alex Simon. So it was just the 4 of us. It was a lot of fun. But in terms of story structure, it was just difficult. I was constantly editing, and after a while I just wasn't really sure what I wanted. So I gotta give huge shout outs to Ryan Orlando for helping me out. We shot his scenes, originally we had it where, again, he was the person that first found the monster. That was the plot twist. We filmed his scenes, but there wasn't really much to work with at that point in time, because it was on a whim. And so we ended up reshooting it. What you're seeing right now, this footage, obviously did not make the final cut. What we have instead is something that I think worked a lot better especially given the intensity of it. But it wasn't necessarily bad. It's just something wasn't totally working for us. We then filmed Ryan Arcavige's scenes, where originally we shot his scenes where he was meeting me. Everything you saw in the film, like pretty much when he was walking and everything, until he gets indoors, all that stayed the same, like for the longest time. Still is the same, obviously, in the final cut. Once he gets in, that's when we reshot it. There was a lot of reshoots in this movie, which is fine in a movie, but there were a lot of reshoots. This footage you're seeing right now obviously was not in the original cut. It was just different. We worked a little bit on the lighting and perfecting it a little bit more. Then what happened was I then shot Louis Schrager scenes. Louis Schrager was someone I went to high school with. We've still been in touch. And his scenes, it was fast. It was one day. We got it done really fast. He was fortunate enough to be able to help me. I really appreciate his help. Same day we shot Eric Reyers, who there was a lot of interesting improv with that, but I really dug it. I really appreciate how different it was, and I think that's one of the big things I gotta say. Not just with his, but pretty much everybody, is that everybody's interview was just so different that I really appreciate it because it left a lot of variety in there. So it was really cool. We got some cool pictures and everything that I really dug. Then what happened was we we filmed the scene that was a fake interview, for Ryan Orlando, basically where this is the interview we're using to pitch to the studio. To show it as a comedy, because the studio wants a comedy, so this is the footage that we're showing them so we can get the budget. And I think it was brilliant because Ryan Orlando's improv in this scene is just utterly hilarious. I was dying, he was dying. The editing in the final cut, that's probably the best that it was going to be, because there was just so much laughing. Oh my goodness, it was like The Usual Suspects, that one scene, my goodness. So we got to that, and again, things were going really well. Things were getting colder though, obviously, because we were filming in wintertime, so there was some complaining. Like we filmed the one scene. It was actually at the Chamonix Mall, which ironically is where all of this discussion had begun. So we found it kind of fitting. We filmed that tracking shot of just like me walking to meet Marv's character. And the thing is, we filmed this a couple times because Ryan Arcavige's friend Sam was in the back, and we had to make sure that it wasn't seen. So that was kind of difficult at first, but this was the scene where Marv's introduction, and I liked it. What stinks though is that we also were meeting up Alex Diamond with Sam, and we ended up not filming Sam's scenes because it was raining. Ironically, thankfully it wasn't snow, but it was raining, so we didn't get to film her scene. And then there was just a lot of things that didn't happen, and we weren't able to get her in the movie. The next week we then filmed Dora Dagley's, because what happens is she's the significant other of Ryan Orlando, and she was interested, and I was more than happy to have her in the movie, and I think her performance was really good. I think the interview went really well, and that's where, that one. It was originally going to be him being the one that's going to lead us to the monster, but he didn't want to do night shooting, which I guess I can understand, night shooting is like difficult, but still. So it was just one of those things where I had to literally rewrite and re-script everything. So we had it where her character was going to be the one. And I think it worked out, honestly. I think that it was definitely a more creepy performance, and I think that really worked. We then shot the big fight scene. It's not the fight scene you think, though. It's a different fight scene. So originally, let me show you guys the footage. So there's this footage where it's a clear lake. There's plenty of beach. That's what I envisioned for the fight scene to be at. The reality was then this scene. Yeah, this scene. So it wasn't ideal, but at the same time I was like, all right, it's fine. We'll work with what we got. We were originally gonna have it where Marv's character was just gonna like punch me, and the camera was gonna cut right as he was about to punch. I then get home and I realized that there was a smudge. Eric Rayer, you son of a gun. So I had to reshoot it. I realized I had to reshoot it, so that was for a different day. I had Ryan Arcavige come over. We reshot his scene when I meet him as a cinematographer. So I then filmed a bunch of scenes, the montage of basically me, giving the audience like my personality and everything, showing like the vodka and the Coke and then the other Coke. I ended up reshooting that because it wasn't something that I wasn't proud of. It was something that I knew I could do better of, and at the same time I realized I wasn't wearing what I should be wearing, considering that in the previous scene I was wearing something else. So yeah, not my finest hour. But I then had my friend John Shields about a week later. Actually no, it was a couple days, my mistake, I'm losing track of time. He came over, to hang out, and at the same time I was like, dude, I want you in this movie. Like, you are the one that was originally in my movies in high school. I want you in this. And he was down. He bought, this professor gear, and I think it really worked. I think that his performance was very enjoyable and very helpful in terms of the plot. It was a good performance. We shot it in one day. Very windy, so some of the audio is not the best, but at the same time, with what we were working with, it was good. I liked it, and I think that it was very well shot. And again, it was just the two of us with that. After that, I then wanted to have the shot that you get to see in the movie where, with Kevin's scene, the Ranger, his ending scene is the camera panning into the water. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to shoot it where the camera was then in the water and then coming out for the next interview. So I did that. I shot with Angela Peltekis, my girlfriend's sister, Lenny Peltekis, who interview you see earlier in the movie, but we shot those actually at the same day. So Eric Rayer was also there, and Angela's ex-boyfriend Lucas was there too. So there was that, and then pretty much after filming, I then got home, quickly edited things. I didn't color grade or anything, but I quickly edited it, and then a couple hours later, Ryan and Dora came over and we filmed refilmed the flashback scene of Ryan Orlando basically coming to my place and tell me about this monster, which basically starts the entire movie in terms of like the timeline. So I filmed that. I was exhausted, but thankfully they did a really good job. It was a lot of fun, and it turned out really good. I was very happy with it. I then went back to the park and I shot a bunch of nature scenes, and then I also filmed Dan Kaplan scenes. Dan Kaplan was also very helpful. He plays not only the Chad in the movie, the gym guy, but he also plays, fun fact, the military guy. And so, fun facts with that. After that, it was then, after his scenes, that was a Saturday, so then the next day, Sunday, we shot my little brother, Alex, Dora, and myself. At that point, again, as you probably have noticed, Marv and Ryan kind of faded. And it was just one of those things where Marv tried to show up when he could. He lives far away, but he tried to show up when he could. And then Ryan Arkavich, he had some other priorities, which, again, I get it because we weren't planning to shoot for this amount of time. So I, get it. So we filmed my little brother's scenes, which it's so funny. If you've seen in the bloopers, he wanted it to be where he was walking and we're in front of him. Ambitious, I like it. I'm into cinematography, so I was all about it. I was fine with that, but he just wasn't able to walk in a straight line, so things kind of got screwed up. So it was pretty funny though, but it was just kind of like, dude, you want to do this ambitious thing, but you're messing up. But it turned out good. We then shot Alex's scenes. A couple hiccups early on during the shooting of that, but we ended up getting it, and I was able to edit around, and I got the performance I wanted. So that was good. And then next up we have. Oh yeah, that was a Saturday. Then the next week we shot Corinne Cowan, Kevin Cowan's sister, her scene, which I liked. I thought it was really cool to kind of use water as a backdrop, and the audio was actually really good. I was proud of that. Same day we shot Tyler Kotarski's brief cameo. Basically, he's the bike rider. I really liked that scene. Difficult though because that day, for some reason, there were so many people at the park, and obviously the park's supposed to be very desolate looking because it's still supposed to be winter. So we had to then shoot somewhere off trail, and it worked. I really liked it. The next day, we then got even more shooting done. It was Marv, Dora, and myself. I think it was probably the best day of shooting as of right now, as of filming this, because this was the famous Chad getting dunked shoot. So I tried to get everyone involved for this shoot because I was like, how often do you get to see me getting dunked? I wanted it to be where I was getting dunked. I just had in my mind, I was like, you know what, me getting beat up, I don't think that's enough. I was like, if I screwed him over for millions, I think it should be that I get dunked and then get beat up. So we did it. Problem was, Marv messed up. He kind of I directed him like 6 times to not go too far, like in the water. He went too far in the water, as you can see. I mean, I love the camera work. Dora did a great job with it, but it almost was ruined because he went too far, so the camera had to follow, and we almost missed it. It was like, oh my goodness, and we had to get it done in one shot because obviously for continuity with being wet and everything. So we got it done though. It was good. I really liked that shoot. I thought it worked out very well. After that, a week later, we then shot the scenes after that where basically I'm, you know, not sober in the slightest. I'm just, you know, addicted to drugs and everything. And then we, you know, obviously come across Dora's character coming in, meeting me, and you know, me being startled by the fact that she, you know, knows where I live, and she agrees to, you know, lead me to her. I mean, lead me to him, I should say. And that was fun because it was Ryan and Dora and myself. I really liked that shoot. After that, we then shot Tom's scene, which is Nicolette's brother. His scene with Nicolette, myself, and Tom. That was a lot of fun. I will say that is when, actually no, let me go back to it. I'd say shortly after Corinne and Tyler's shoot, that was when the coronavirus started, and that really affected things because it went from like possibly 4 or 5 people helping out to sometimes 3, to then it was like pretty much nobody was down for it except Ryan, Dora, and sometimes Dan when, you know, he was awake. So they helped out a lot during the whole coronavirus thing because everyone else was scared, which I get it. It's just for me personally, as someone that, you know, has to keep busy, I was just kind of like, I need to be filming. It's nature. It's fine, you know, I'll stay away from everyone else, but just let me film. So I was doing that for a while, and we filmed day 1 of the night shoot. We filmed, you know, us in the car and everything. Dan Kaplan is the military guy. It went really well until it actually got dark out. That was when the footage was hard to see, and I just had to figure out the lighting, like the difference with that, and it's something that I'm still learning about, honestly. After that, it was then the next day I decided to shoot the scene where Ryan, or Cabbage, is on the phone. The reason for that, not only because it's the coronavirus, but also I knew that I had to pretty much end that arc. You know, because you have it in the movie, the first 15 minutes you see Ryan or Cabbage, and all of a sudden it's like, what the heck, he disappeared. So this is to give basically closure of his character. It was needed, I think, personally, and it's why I added it in the movie. But after Ryan or Cabbage's, you know, rejection call, I decided that there should be other calls too. So I called up a couple other friends and decided, you know what, let's go with this, because it makes sense with that whole feeling of isolation and just like helplessness. So that way when Ryan Orlando's character is able to help out, it's more impactful than if, you know, it was just one person rejecting you. So I decided to do that. I was able to get a couple friends, which was very effective. Shooting got held off a couple weeks, at least with the, you know, with the crew I was using. So I decided to go out on my own and get some shots. Very happy with these shots, honestly. I think that they're pretty beautiful. And luckily I was able to get a fox, which I was like, you know what, I feel like this would be a really good shot for the beginning of the interviews. Reason why, you know, some people might ask, but I look at foxes as a representation of, you know, loneliness. I mean, if you notice the shot, the fox is by itself, just eating alone. And it's really one of those things where it's almost symbolic for what's going to happen at the end of the movie, where, you know, it's the main character that's just by himself. And to me, that was really important to get across. You know, I did want people to think, you know, while watching this movie, whilst at the same time, you can also just watch this movie for entertainment value. I then filmed with my friend Shooty, which unfortunately his scene didn't make it into the movie with like him shooting me. Reason for it was because of lighting. So what happened was I shot he shot me, I should say, not the other way around. And then it was the following week, let's shoot around 6, 7 o'clock, and then I'll just color grade to make it look like nighttime, which in theory can work very effectively, I might add. But the only problem is that if you notice, there's a bunch of shadows. Shadows is not good when it comes to that, and that's the reason why I couldn't do it. It was either make it completely black or make it, you know, just the way it was. So I decided to make it in between. And the reason why there's that third option is because I was like, well, here, we'll show that there's black shadows and everything to make sure that people know that it's getting dark. It just hasn't gotten dark. So that's why all these scenes that we had it this way. That day we managed to actually get the, you know, the suicide and
the death of Dan Kaplan's character. And very last minute, but thankfully we were able to get that in. Actually, fun fact, Ryan Orlando was the one that decided to, like, he just said it jokingly, and I was like, no, that would actually be really effective, because it's like, holy cow, like, literally these people are just going in the woods, so you expect that they're, getting picked off one by one. It's like, well, no, the one got picked off, and then literally the other one committed suicide because he can't handle it. So to me, that was really effective. I then, a couple days later, shot the moon, because the moon was out, and my girlfriend pointed out that she's like, well, you got to remember with the dates and everything, because, people can look back and be like, oh, well, the moon was full on this date, and I'll be like, oh, shoot, you're right. So I decided to, change the dates of the movie for that, and then several days later, we then shot Eric Rayer's scene as Incisor, which was very, very fun. I really liked it. I think the final product turned out really, really good, in my opinion. The cloak and everything really added to a lot. I also really liked how I was able to play around with editing and everything, because if you guys notice with my directing style, I love long takes, but this was something that gave me an option of having, quick cuts, and I don't know, I personally liked it. Once everyone left set, I then decided, you know what, I'm shooting my monologue scene, so I shot my monologue of basically, listen, if anyone finds this camera, here this is. And that was, a great day of shooting again. There were 2 final days. The one day was literally just one scene, and that was me smiling. Me smiling upon the realization of, wow, this is getting on film, and even though I'm dying, people will find the camera, hopefully, and if they find the camera, they'll see that, hey, I was right, I was able to get this on film, and maybe if this is out there, maybe it will be turned into a movie and people will watch it. That's what I was going for. We then filmed Andrew Wright's scene as the person that finds the camera a couple weeks later. Him finding the camera I thought was very effective because it was subtle storytelling. I didn't want to beat over the head. Like, originally I was thinking about it, but I decided against it at the final end. And it's really cool. That part was a lot of fun to edit. The sound effect of the monster, right as he's like, whoa, like, upon the realization. But again, it's ambiguous, but at the same time, it's also satisfying because he got it out there. Someone found it, and who knows, maybe it will get out there to become like either a movie or in the news. Who knows? So, again, very happy with that ending. I'm curious to hear everyone's thoughts about it. But guys, that's the behind the scenes. Very curious to hear everyone's thoughts. And as always, thank you very much for watching this video, as well as hopefully you saw Incisor as well. Otherwise, there are a lot of spoilers. So, but thank you very much for watching.